Hey y'all, Uncle Jimmy here. When you speak for yourself, you're forced to think for yourself. And when you think for yourself, the sports world looks different. In order to enjoy this podcast and this show, you need to have the courage to look at the world from alternative points of view and not be offended when you disagree. Speak for yourself isn't your Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram feed. SFY tells you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. So, welcome aboard, buckle up, and enjoy the ride.
We start today with Sunday Night Football. I thought I'd feel better watching the fall of the Patriots. I thought it would feel the same as watching Tiger Woods win last year's Masters. But witnessing someone else's pain doesn't produce the kind of joy as witnessing someone's triumph.
Sad.
I felt sad and then bored watching the Houston Texans frustrate Tom Brady and the Patriots on Sunday Night Football. When the camera showed Brady yelling at Julian Edelman and Philip Dorsett that the team must re-sign Antonio Brown, I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I thought. Oh, you didn't catch that moment? You didn't fully understand what Brady meant when he shouted, "We have to be faster, quicker, and more explosive." Brady was yelling at Edelman and Dorsett. Brady was speaking to team owner Robert Kraft. Edelman and Dorsett can only run so fast, move so quick, and be so explosive. They don't have a switch they can flick. There's one person who can bring Brown back to the NFL this season. That's Robert Kraft. He can move beyond AB's Twitter insults and persuade Roger Goodell to reinstate AB. It appears Kraft has made it known he has no interest in doing so. This morning on Instagram, Brown reposted a story from a Patriots fan account that blasted Kraft once again. The post referenced the Patriots owner's citation for visiting a happy ending spa. AB won't be rejoining the Patriots, and Brady knows exactly where things are headed in New England. The fall that Patriots haters have been predicting for 5 years is finally happening. The Houston Texans are the Visigoths, the barbarian tribe that looted and ransacked Rome in 410 AD. Don't be fooled by the last night's final score, 28-22. Houston dominated New England until the fourth quarter. Houston's defense isn't particularly strong. The Texans have a makeshift secondary. They traded away Jadeveon Clowney, and J.J. Watt has been sidelined with a torn pec muscle. Despite all that, the Texans had little difficulty slowing Brady and the New England offense. Late in the third quarter, Houston led 21-3. At halftime, Brady had completed just 7 of 19 passes for 86 yards. New England's 10-2 record is a mirage, a byproduct of a favorable schedule. The Patriots are the third or fourth best team in the AFC, and there are 6 teams better than the Pats in the NFC. Why am I not happy? Brady's been reduced to passive-aggressively begging for the return of a wide receiver mired in multiple allegations of at best bad behavior and at worst criminal behavior. Rome collapsed under the weight of its corruption. That's what happens to all dynasties. The Patriots, looking for solutions outside their locker room, is the most telling sign the end is near. All right, joining the desk now are Fox Sports NFL analyst LeVar Arrington and Hall of Fame tight end Tony Gonzalez. Marcellus, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Are we witnessing the end of the Patriots dynasty?
No, not at all. By the very definition of what they've shown us over the 19 years Belichick and Brady have been together in tandem, they are not missing a beat. Their definition of dynasty is not win the Super Bowl every year. It's to be contenders. And once again, they are contenders. Number 2 seed in the AFC, contenders. Let's just talk about these 19 years because people get lost in the details. They've made 9 of the Super Bowls. That means they've missed 10 of the Super Bowls. They've won 6 of them, and that means they've lost or not competed in 13 of them. So by that definition, what we're seeing is par for the course. But let's dive a little deeper into the recent details. Last year, Super Bowl champions, remember that? But do y'all remember week 10? Anybody? Week 14? Losses to the Dolphins, to the Titans. And once again, people like my boy Max Kellerman and everybody else, oh, it's over, it's a wrap. Falling off a cliff. This is what they do. They will ride the waves, and then they will peak in the postseason, whether that is in success, like last year, Super Bowl championship, or in failure, like the other 13 years they've been together. But once again, still contenders.
I think it's a no for me, and a lot of the reasons that Marcellus gave. as long as you have Kraft and Belichick in hand, you still have the ability to have a dynasty. And I'll go back to the Castle year of when Tom Brady was removed from the team because of injury. The team still seemed to be able to win without Tom Brady. So I, however, think that it is the end of an era that's coming, and that era between Belichick and Tom Brady. I've never seen Tom Brady react the way he has reacted as it applied to the way his play is going or some of the things that he may be frustrated about. You've never really seen it in this regard. And to me, I see the cracks taking place between Brady and Belichick. But end of the dynasty, they'd have to show me before I believe that.
Absolutely. Show me. I played in Missouri, the show me state, baby. This team is still good. I don't care. Only 2 losses. A lot of teams would kill to have that record right now. And I don't even think when Tom Brady leaves, the dynasty will continue. If we call Bill Belichick the greatest coach of all time in any sport, then why would we all of a sudden just say because you lost one player or the offense isn't playing or the deep, whatever it is, that he's not going to figure it out? This is what he does. This is a good challenge for him right now, and they're going to be fine. As soon as Tom hangs his cleats up, if I'm Bill Belichick, too, a lot of people are saying that Bill Belichick's going to retire when Tom Brady, maybe they go out holding hands together. I don't think so. If I'm Bill Belichick, I'm like, I'm going to stay around, and I'm going to show everybody that the hype wasn't fake, that I am the best coach of all time, and I'm going to go out there and continue winning, and I would put everything on it that he's going to win another Super Bowl without Tom Brady.
Come on, guys. I mean, and I love Bill Belichick. He is the greatest of all time. But even as an assistant, a defensive coordinator, he had LT. The GOAT, LT. And you could, maybe he created LT. I don't think so. Now he's got the GOAT quarterback. And if this is the end of Brady, which I think it is, I think there's some agreement there. We're seeing some cracks in Tom Brady. Then it's the end of the dynasty. And again, I just don't. You're just not going to plug and play just because it's Bill Belichick. I just don't see that.
Okay, let's run with your narrative, and then I'm going to attack yours.
Okay.
One, you said he fell into having a GOAT or created a GOAT in LT, right?
Yeah.
And then quietly, everyone said, you're an amazing coordinator. You'll never be a great head coach. And in the process...
No one said that, but go ahead.
You don't think so?
No.
After losing 5 of your first 6 seasons, people say you were better as a coordinator. True. They said that. All right. So then he all of a sudden, in the process of trying to silence all the Bill Parcells critics, I can't win without Bill Parcells, fell into or created another GOAT. So now he's in a situation where that GOAT goes away. You think he's not going to be motivated once again to prove the same naysayers that said he couldn't do it without Parcells, who are saying now he can't do it without Tom Brady, to be motivated to go once again?
I don't doubt his motivation. I just doubt whether he can do it again in New England. Again, He created a culture that can win even with backup quarterbacks. To your point, we have seen Tom Brady act like this before. And it was actually against the head coach of the Texans, Bill O'Brien. Do y'all remember him just going nuts on Bill O'Brien during the game play? I think it was AFC Championship game, Bill O'Brien's last season. Point being, when Tom Brady shows frustration, it's not typical frustration, all things are falling apart. It's his competitiveness trying to be part of the team and trying to make that contagious more so than we have issues.
But that meltdown with O'Brien was more, that's player coach. That was driven player coach.
Okay.
In the AFC Championship.
This frustration,
game, right?
This frustration that you're seeing out of Tom Brady right now is true frustration towards him feeling as though, in my interpretation, that he's not as significant as he feels he should be in this moment. And that's where I think it's coming from.
Yeah.
That's why it's different.
It could be. I mean, and good for him. You know what? Welcome to the rest of us, okay? We've all been there. And I think it's good. But I also think, although difficult, you can plug in another great player in there. I mean, you look at music, Sammy Hagar, David Lee Roth, you know the band? What's it called again? You guys know this music?
Van Halen.
Van Halen.
Might as well jump.
Okay, you can have people come in there. I mean, I look at the tight end in Kansas City. You got Travis Kelce now, another great tight end. What is to stop him from going out there? Jimmy Garoppolo is playing really good football. He's 18-3 as a starter. He's 18-3 as a starter.
He was.
Whatever it is. He is going to be fine Brian, I think if he has that eye for talent, which is another great quality you got to have is to be a good head coach, he's going to go out there and find somebody.
Tom Brady has not lost perspective. For us to sit here and, one, marvel at his greatness but not respect his mentality, here's some perspective for you. Tom Brady knows that even in decline, if that is what he's going through, it can still lead to his goal, success, Super Bowl championships. Here's a full screen. Looking at another player in decline who's an all-time great, and Peyton Manning. Remember that 2015 year when he got
He don't
bent?
want to go out like that.
And that's my point. Well, he won't go out like that, and they won the Super Bowl. So Tom Brady has to have perspective and say, I'm beating the worst who still won a championship in his decline. So I think this is something that Tom Brady should have some kind of solace in, knowing that it's not all on him.
I'm not saying this as a negative. I just think this guy's brilliant. But I think his words to Edelman and Dorsett were calculated. Just like I think the little post-game press conference a couple of weeks ago when he was all sad and wouldn't answer questions, it was all calculated. He's trying to scream to Robert Kraft, I need help. Edelman and Dorsett are not going to get any faster, any quicker. That is calculated. This dude knows a camera follows him around. He knows, and as the way he was speaking, he knows it was going to be lip read and everybody could hear what he was saying. This guy knows he needs more help, wanted AB back, and they're not going to get AB back. He can't.
Jason Whitlock.
I don't think in previous years he'd be doing this.
Big dog.
Yeah.
When someone screams at you in a moment, they're not talking about your physical skill set. No one's looking at you say, man, I need you to be faster. Hey, dog, 4.6 is all I got. Right. They are talking about your mentality, your sense of urgency, a team that can get complacent in this next Super Bowl run because they're like, look, we know we have a postseason. Maybe we are trying to save some for it. Maybe our eyes are not directly on the prize in this moment. Where Tom Brady's like, every single second counts. So I've never seen a physical encounter between teammates, and he's actually talking about you in the weight room. He's talking about you on the football field. He's talking about your mentality. Get out the breaks. Get into the breaks. Get into the huddle. Those type of things.
I don't think he was talking to those guys at all again. I honestly think those words are intended for Robert Kraft. I need AB. And that's why, again, I think AB thinks that too. That's why he was tweeting about it. And that's why when the word came out this morning or last night, like, damn, Brady, it didn't work. I tried 2 weeks ago to throw a tantrum at the post. It didn't work. This didn't work. Now AB's said, okay, I'm not coming back to the Patriots.
They got the same agent, Don Yee. You know how easy it is for you not to blow up your spot with the owner who's been taking care of you and you're on your last leg in your 20th year? You could just call your agent who is his agent and be like, hey, Don, make this happen. And Don say yes, no, because I talked to Kraft as well. Why would you do this? Why would you try to blow up the spot to call?
Oh, I don't think he's trying to blow up. This is passive aggressive. It's brilliant, in my opinion.
What can he do, though? Who are they going to go get?
AB is who he wanted.
AB is not coming back with those tweets and all that stuff.
I agree.
So who else is it?
You think Tom Brady didn't want him back, though?
Yeah, of course he wanted him back. I would think he'd probably take Gordon back. He'd take he wants Gronk. He wants Gronk. He wants all these people. I just don't know what could Kraft do. If Kraft said, okay, Tom, I hear you. You've been complaining or whatever. I read between the lines. What do you want me to do? What
I want you to get AB. And again, this is conspiratorial, but again, they haven't even really gone into the AB investigation because, again, Robert Kraft's like, nah, man.
Chill.
We're not. Don't bring this back. And again, there's 31 or 30 other owners, because Green Bay doesn't have an owner, that agree with like, hey, man, we can't have our players talking this out of school. AB has to sit until Robert Kraft said, okay, bring him back.
I just think AB has put him in very unwinnable situations, the owner and Tom Brady. I mean, if you're really looking at it, and again, I feel like Tom Brady his agent had something to do with that tweet where he apologized. This last tweet, not so much. That's AB going off of the reservation, right? And yes, Tom is crying out for help. He undoubtedly is crying out for help and feels as though he's not getting it. But I do think that the biggest question here is, what is the solution? Because if he's crying out to get more help and AB isn't available, again, I think the question goes back to what you asked. How at this moment in the season, 10-12, you're in week 14?
10-2.
10-2,
yeah,
excuse me.
But my point, does anybody, I think Houston is better than them. I clearly think Baltimore is the best team in the AFC. And we're going to find out about my Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday. I'm not ready to go there. It was just the Raiders. But, I can legitimately say I think the Chiefs are as good. We'll see if they're better.
Yeah.
And then I look over at the NFC, and there's 5 or 6 teams that I know are better than the Patriots.
But not in the playoffs. I think that's the only problem with any discussion point about New England is their body of work is so solid and so proven and tried and true that you can say that every year that they've been in the Super Bowl, every year they've been, where they've been. You got to prove it. They could be better than them now, but can they be better than them in the playoffs?
Hey guys, this is Jason Whitlock from Speak For Yourself. Are you ready for what's ahead? You can't always predict the future, but you can game plan for it. Generations of families and businesses have harnessed the power of Pacific to help them reach their unique goals. Whether you need to save enough money to meet your needs, ensure your family is protected, or make sure you don't run out of money, Pacific Life has a variety of financial solutions that can help. Pacific Life counts more than half of the 100 largest U.S. companies as its clients and has been named one of the 2019 world's most ethical companies by the Ethisphere Institute. Protecting what matters most to people for 150 years and counting? That's the power of Pacific. Ask a financial professional about how Pacific Life can help you game plan for the future or visit pacificlife.com.
Tony Gonzalez and LeVar Arrington are back. Time now for a big story presented by Hyundai. Let's move to Baltimore, where the Ravens pulled out a close win over the 49ers yesterday, thanks to a last-second field goal by Justin Tucker. While Lamar Jackson and company got the victory, a lot of people were crediting San Francisco for shutting down Lamar, who struggled to get much going in the passing game, completing just 14 passes for 105 yards, though he was still able to rush for over 100 yards and accounted for 2 total touchdowns. A lot of people think this game could be a Super Bowl preview. All right, the question is, think the 49ers would beat the Ravens in a Super Bowl rematch?
No, I don't think so. Let's respect the elements and how it had an impact on both teams. But in these conditions, you get to lean on your defense and your running game, which both teams are strong at. So I think we saw a fuller version of the 49ers in a loss. Think about it. They were closer to who they could be in defeat. So if you look at the quarterback situation, everyone said that wasn't MVP Lamar Jackson, despite for rushing over 100 yards, but in total, only 204 yards. But Lamar Jackson came into this game with a quarterback rating of 111, and he had a quarterback rating of 86 yesterday, versus Jimmy G, who came in with a 100 quarterback rating, had a 110 rating. Despite not having all the counting numbers, you actually saw a closer version offensively of what the 49ers are capable of than the Ravens. So in the rematch, and if it is proper conditions out there, I think the Ravens going to show you a lot more of that from Lamar Jackson, and I think they will widen the score.
I think they play them in the Super Bowl. The Ravens do win. However, I think that the keys to beating this Ravens team became evident in yesterday's game.
Rain.
Well, possibly.
God,
third down efficiency. They were 4 and 12 at 33%. You got to have better. You got to have better efficiency there. Penalties, 6 penalties. That's too many penalties. And time of possession. They lost the time of possession with 27 minutes and 34 seconds. If you're going to have a great defense against this Baltimore offense, you've got to have an offense that can sustain long drives, eat up the clock. Don't give this offense too many opportunities, because I think it's showing and proving that it's very difficult right now for any defense to slow down to the point of victory. Lamar Jackson.
I think San Francisco wins. I thought San Francisco was going to win yesterday until the last kick. I was like, if he misses this kick, San Francisco is going to win this game. The traveling cross country, I thought they played outstanding. And I think now you got them on tape. There was somebody in that game that was absent from the receiving standpoint from the San Francisco 49ers, George Kittle. They did a great job on covering him, but he, first of all, blocked his butt off. That never goes in the stat, but I think for sure they play against him again. They learn how to get him open. This is how they're going to guard George. You get George going in that passing game to go with Garoppolo, and that defense really showed up. I mean, you're never going to stop Lamar Jackson. You can only hope to contain him, just like any Michael Jordan great scorer. He's going to get his points, especially with his legs. You're not going to stop it. You can't. You don't have enough players. So I think in a Super Bowl game, San Francisco picks up where they left off. Kyle Shanahan, to me, what he did with the Falcons a couple years ago with Matt Ryan, making him an MVP. This is what he's doing. He is a master play caller. You cannot stop that zone run offense. You guys play defense. Yeah. It is tough. I've seen that when I first got into the league with the Denver Broncos. You can't stop that. And you can run everything off of that, and you got that good defense. I think for sure San Francisco wins in a close game.
And to your point, that's why I don't think that they can win a rematch. The zone running game, they were attacking the edges yesterday in those conditions. So in favorable conditions, they probably go with that game plan. But what you didn't see out of Baltimore is the exclamation marks that they usually put on drives or in situations. You saw drop passes, you saw errant passes. You saw a team not used to those conditions in terms of how they can go out there and be explosive. So I'm just using more of a hypothetical. Put them on neutral ground where they're not thinking about conditions. I think we see more of their offense and you see more explosiveness.
I think I agree with you. You go down to Miami for a Super Bowl, probably won't be raining, so you're going to get a dry track. Yeah. I felt like the bad conditions hurt Lamar Jackson's footwork in the passing game more than it did Jimmy Garoppolo. Having said all that, anytime a quarterback rushes for 100 yards, I'm just sorry, with their offense, Lamar had a hell of a game to me. And again, I never even looked at Jimmy G's numbers. Maybe that's irresponsible, but I did watch the entire game. I didn't like the way Jimmy G played. Jimmy G was inaccurate. There were catches, there were completed passes where he didn't hit a guy in stride so they could get yards after catch. There was the fumble. Again, the guy's loose with the football. There were some key inaccurate passes. I thought Jimmy G would play better in sloppy conditions as a passer and it would be so pronounced that would give the San Francisco an advantage. It didn't happen. I'm just not sold on Jimmy G. That's why I'm not sold on the 49ers in a rematch. I do think, hey, they played him relatively well. It was a great game. It was a close game. Hats off to San Francisco. But when it comes down to a Super Bowl and I have to bet on which quarterback I think is going to deliver at crunch time, I'm going Lamar over Jimmy G.
When you look, I'm looking at you saying the weather conditions. First of all, the way these fields are structured now, the field conditions don't really play a major part.
Huh?
Nah. Not with that flubber, the blubber, the rubber, and all that stuff on.
Yeah, that's field turf, but that's natural grass, and that's natural grass gonna be in Miami. And you're gonna get rain in Miami as Prince.
But I'm talking about this game in particular.
Yeah.
That's not going to falter offense more than it would put a defense at disadvantage in my estimation. If we're looking at it from a standpoint of going against this team again, I give the decisive advantage to the 49ers defense in this game. And if you're looking at it from that perspective, if you're able to run the ball effectively, like you just said, Kyle Shanahan and that offense is able to do, and you're able to maintain, losing the time of possession to me means you're going to lose to the Baltimore Ravens. If I'm a coach going into that game, I'm saying, listen, do not let this ball go into their offense's hands too many times in one quarter. Too many opportunities, too many chances.
And my whole argument is Jimmy G is going to turn the ball over. Again, they're going to come in with a great little plan, but eventually Jimmy G is going to do something loose with the football and turn it over. You know that was Lamar's first fumble all season? This dude runs the ball more than any quarterback we've ever seen, and it took a hell of a strip to get it away from him. First one all season. Maybe it's late in the season. Maybe he's more beat up. I don't know. But the kid's pretty safe with the football. He doesn't throw foolish interceptions. He doesn't turn it over. The other guy does. That's what I think separates these two teams.
What's with you? You don't like Jimmy Garoppolo?
No.
I'm starting to get something here. Why is that? He's 18-3. He can play.
Yeah.
That's been all
He's good.
I think that's Kyle Shanahan. Hey, you remember Matt Ryan's record
MVP.
with Kyle Shanahan?
So what? So even if you don't like Jimmy, you like Kyle Shanahan.
And
he is
together.
good.
But again,
you saw what he did with Matt Ryan.
I'm telling you. Colin Cowherd used to sit on here and say, hey, man, I don't like Matt Ryan. And I'd be like, oh, man, you crazy. And then Kyle Shanahan left, and he's right. I don't like Matt Ryan. And that's how I feel about Jimmy G. He's being propped up by a hell of a defense and a hell of a head coach. But eventually, and again, I'm not trying to make too much of it, but I started this when that dude showed up in Beverly Hills with the porn star, I was like, his decision-making is not the decision-making of a quarterback.
So that's why he can't win a Super Bowl. He's
he's loose.
To your point of decision-making.
That is cold-blooded in the paint, man.
Did y'all think anything of it when they said he didn't come out early to make any of the pregame throws in the conditions? I didn't make anything of it, but that is a decision. Like, okay, I don't want to get fully acclimated because, you know what, I got to deal with it when I have to deal with it. And there were errant throws. There was a first down, easy first down. All you got to do is lay it right here. Instead, threw it behind.
Yeah, but the conditions, the same thing can be said. Lamar Jackson missed a couple throws that he normally makes.
Yeah.
That he normally makes.
Yeah.
And so they both were dealing with it. But it's like the Kyle Shanahan, he's the crew chief, and he puts the nice race car for you. And Jimmy, just get in there and drive it, okay? I'm going to have everything set up for you. When we call the play, just execute it the best you can.
I love your car racing analogy because I'm from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a huge car racing fan. And Roger Penske, one of the greatest team owners of all time, got one year, Danny Ungaius got to drive a Roger Penske car, and he wrecked it. Because that's what Danny Ungaius did. He always wrecked the car.
Did you see that setup?
Put him in the best.
Did you see that setup?
Put him in the best equipment ever, and he's gonna wreck. There's just certain guys.
He gonna wreck no matter what you give him.
Whitlock and Wiley, Tony Gonzalez, and LeVar Arrington are back. Let's move to Dallas, where the Cowboys didn't have much to be thankful for last Thursday. Getting embarrassed by the Bills at Jerry World, but the loss left a lot of people wondering, is Jason Garrett's days in Dallas were about to come to an end? But Jerry Jones made it very clear that he's not ready to move on from Garrett.
This is not the time. For me, I'm looking ahead at another ball game, and I'm looking ahead at winning 4 or 5 straight, and helping write a story that they'll talk about how it looked like you were down and out and got it done. And I mean that. That's the way that I'm operating. Every decision that I make over the next month will be with an eye in mind to get us in the Super Bowl now.
All right, do you agree with Jerry that it's the wrong time to fire Jason Garrett?
Absolutely agree. And if you look at the relationship right now and what's going on in Dallas upstairs between Jerry and his son, Steven, it's almost scripted, where Jerry will react with his emotions. And then his son will react with logic and cognitive thought. And then his son will win out. We've seen it in multiple drafts since his son has been promoted to his status. And you see it with Jerry in a lot of his initial reactions, and then he walks it back to a calmer place. So right now, we see Jerry saying exactly what Steven said last week about this entire situation and coaching change. We're going to wait to the postseason to see what we can do as a team. And now let's talk about that road. As it sits right now, the Dallas Cowboys have a home playoff game. The hell? And their current path to that is playing the Seahawks, who they beat last year in the playoffs.
9-2.
Hey, still a team that you
Russell
feel comfortable with. And Russell Wilson was there last year. And then you got to go on the road.
They haven't beat a winning team. They haven't beat a winning team.
Exactly. So why waste them? Wait till the playoffs, baby. Beat a winning team when it matters. My point is, it's not daunting what's in front of them. And there's also some favorable things, including that same home playoff game because you're leading your division. The Philadelphia Eagles, wet in the bed, didn't take advantage of the situation. So Dallas still sits there with all their goals in front of them.
And to me, that's the biggest key to all of this. What's driving Jerry Jones's thought on Jason Garrett is they're in a very weak division. You know, the NFC East has given Jerry Jones the comfort and the ability to be able to say this isn't the right time. Now, if you have a more...
You agree with it?
I don't agree with it.
That was the question.
Well,
not an explanation. That was the question.
I mean, I agree with him not firing him based upon the thought process of where they currently stand. If I'm Jerry Jones, I would have already made a move because I would have felt maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that ship has sunk. I believe that the respect factor, the listening, the ability to get the results that they're seeking as a team. He should have been fired, but now is not the right time to fire him.
I mean, firing a coach in the middle of the season rarely works out. I don't think you right the ship all of a sudden in the middle of the season. At least give me some examples. Maybe you guys got
Cleveland did better after they fired Houston.
Yeah, okay, but it rarely works. Yeah. Okay, I think we all can agree there.
You're punting on the season.
That's what it is when you fire a coach in the middle of the season. And Jason Garrett, I've always said this about Jerry. What's the alternative? For what you want, Jerry. For what Jerry wants. Jerry wants, this goes back to Jimmy Johnson, when Jimmy won the Super Bowls, and now Jerry was like, hey, I was part of this, and Jimmy's like, no, you weren't. This is what I did. You paid me to get it done, and I got it done for you. Jerry's like, I will never have that feeling again. And so he's not going to hire another coach that a Bill Parcells type, Jimmy Johnson type.
Capable of winning a Super Bowl.
He doesn't want anybody to come in there
I mean, that's what it sounds like,
and
right?
steal his shine. He's like, I bought this team.
That's so wrong.
He doesn't want to. He's not going to go hire a coach and hand over the keys. He's got to be. I have to be a part. I have to be the GM, and it has to be us winning this together.
Hear you.
So no good coach is going to go in there. And I'm not saying I like Jason Garrett too. I think Jason Garrett's a good coach. But having two chefs, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You got to have one guy. Jerry is the guy. It's his team.
Jerry's a grocer. He's not a chef.
He wants to be the chef, though.
No.
He wants to cook the
Jerry
meal
wants
and say,
to
here
win.
you go.
Jerry wants
I doubt it.
Listen,
that's why he wants
Jimmy credit for wearing it. He wants the credit for winning.
He wants the credit.
He wants to just win. There is no credit if you don't win. He just wants to win.
But why do you part ways
when
with
he
Jimmy
won.
Johnson if that's the case?
Yeah, exactly.
20-some-odd years ago, they were
mature.
younger.
Well, he
this
didn't
guy,
have
this guy's a, look.
Why is he the GM then?
Listen, because he makes good decisions. That's a hell of a roster. That's a hell of a roster.
That is underperforming.
He makes good.
Go ahead.
Listen,
That's underperforming.
I sit around with a tinfoil hat most of the time and come up with conspiracy theories. And I've got a good one here.
Okay.
And look, what Jerry's doing is, because it makes no sense to me, and then I thought, well, what could he be doing? Because this guy should have been fired. The reason Jerry isn't firing him, because I believe Jerry has already reached an agreement with whoever the next coach is. And so if it's Lincoln Riley, Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh, who knows? I think he's already lined up his next coach. He doesn't want to put an interim coach in there and risk the interim coach going on a 3 or 4 game run. And then now you're screwed up.
Right.
But what if Garrett goes on that run?
What's that?
What if Garrett goes on that run?
I think the new statement is Garrett has to win a Super Bowl to keep his job.
Jay Glazer.
And so if Jay Glazer reported that. So if he wins, that's a good problem. That's a good problem. If he wins the Super Bowl, he can keep his job. But Jerry has verbally, in my opinion, reached an agreement. And let's say it's
that further proves the point. Doesn't that further prove the point? If you're putting out there and the narrative is now turned, he has to win the Super Bowl, you've already doomed him. How many games have they won in the big game, in the big moments?
They haven't beaten a winning team. But I'm saying the reason why the guy hasn't been fired, let's say it's an Urban Meyer, somebody you want to prove, hey, man, I'm going to give you plenty of runway. I'm not who they say I am. Hey, I let Jason Garrett, finish out.
Don't do that.
I'm the kind of guy you can trust.
That's what he's saying behind the scenes.
If you're big game hunting for some huge name coach, or Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, you want to say, hey, look, man, I let Jason Garrett exist for 9 years.
You think those coaches are going to come in there and want to work with Jerry?
Hell, Urban Meyer sat on Colin Cowherd's couch and said, it's the Dallas Cowboys.
That's tongue in cheek.
Yeah, that's for your next. That's for your next opportunity to bid it up. I got the Cowboys over here. What are you saying, other schools?
What's the matter with coaching the Cowboys?
Jerry Jones is. That's the matter. He's like, I have to be the GM.
And those are
I want
successful
control.
college coaches that are being thrown out there. I played for a successful college coach in the pros. It is a very different environment to try to have success
You like
as
Steve
a pro.
Spurrier.
I loved him. But
Did the win-loss record?
we did not have enough people that understood the way that Coach Spurrier handled business.
Right.
And that was a detriment to our team, not just to him, but to our team. It's hard for college coaches to come into the pro ranks as head coaches and have success.
I'm gonna tell you what Jerry's selling point is. Like, it's all laid out, man. We have a great roster.
Yeah.
We have very good coaches and a coaching staff. I think Jerry gets a bad rap for his ego being so out of control. He doesn't want. All Jerry wants to do is win. If Vince Lombardi could come out of his grave and win, Jerry would be for that. He would sign him up today. If Jimmy Johnson would come back and coach the team and win, Jerry Jones would do that at this point. The guy just wants to win.
Okay, I think he's in a different place, and I'm with you, Whitlock, to a degree. Like, let's take Jerry for his words. And Jerry's right now is kind of investing in this Rocky story. Rags to riches, come from nowhere and defeat all odds. And if he looks at his team that he constructed, he has confidence in that. Now, Jason Garrett, my confidence is based on what you can do in the postseason moments. Here's a little fun fact. There are 3 teams that have offenses and defenses in the top 10 in the NFL. Only 3 teams. Ravens, 49ers, what's the other one?
Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. So, I mean, look, if you Jerry Jones, you're sitting there like, please, guys, I understand what I used to be, but let me be who I am right now. I'm buying into what this team can be. But Dak, Jason Garrett, I need it all. And if you can't give it to me when it matters most, then we may have to make decisions. But I don't think that Jerry's made that decision just yet.
That's a false stat, though. That's stat. And when I say false, I mean false as in there is no reason to believe that you are as good as Baltimore or as San Francisco. As
talented, but not as good, you're right.
I've been on a ton of talented teams, seen a ton of talented teams that don't achieve or accomplish what they were meant to achieve and accomplish.
Bad coach.
So, and it comes down to leadership, right?
Yeah.
So if the leadership isn't right, then it comes back to the original question. Do you agree with it? Maybe it is punting for this year if you get an interim coach. But if you believe in that statistic, and you feel it's the leadership, and that leadership is not getting them to where they need to be, then this would be the final opportunity to move on from him.
Fire him after the season. Don't fire him right now.
No.
Can't do it.
That's it.
All right, Darnell, did anyone win the Super 6 this weekend?
No jackpot win, Whitlock, but
Holiday.
congratulations to the 43 fans that walked away with some cash in their pockets. So be sure to download the Fox Sports Super 6 app, play for free, for your chance to win.
LeVar Arrington is back, and we're joined now by Fox College Football insider Bruce Feldman. All right, let's move to college football, where Michigan suffered yet another ugly loss to rival Ohio State Saturday, getting blown out 56-27 and dropping Jim Harbaugh to 0-5 against the Buckeyes since taking over in Ann Arbor. After the game, Harbaugh didn't exactly appreciate one of the questions he got about the loss.
Is this a talent gap? Is it a preparation gap? Is it a coaching gap? What is the biggest difference between you and Ohio State at this point?
I mean, I'll answer your questions, not your insults. So
that wasn't an insult. I mean, you give them 118 points in 2 years.
They played really good. They played good.
100 yards. That's why I'm asking. What's the biggest difference in the gap between you guys?
They played better today.
All right. Should Michigan be happy with Jim Harbaugh? I say hell no.
You say hell no?
Hell no.
Okay. You got half of that right. I say hell yes. You know why? There's 2 things that an institution of higher learning that is focused on athletics is concerned with. One is winning. And remember the brand. Remember Michigan football before Jim Harbaugh. Ooh, look, see that face? That's the face I like, Jason Whitlock. This is now a top 10 coach overall and in conference win percentage among Power 5 schools. So he's winning. He hasn't beaten Ohio State. But what also are they concerned about? Raising that money. And they just opened up a $168 million athletic complex that is not called the Brady Hoke Center. You know why? Because Brady Hoke couldn't bring that type of energy, that kind of support. One check, Stephen Ross, $100 million, right there for
Cut
this.
that regardless, but go ahead.
Oh, look, all I'm saying is what he has brought in terms of energy, in terms of wins, in terms of conversation, and rebranded what the M was, is what the M is, and that's under Jim Harbaugh. They had a lull, they had a lapse, and Jim Harbaugh, despite not having the ultimate success, has had enough success to justify them being happy.
You know I've liked you since you wore that helmet.
You, baby.
But you are so off base here. They're 0-5. It's the arch rival.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They've got to be disgusted, frustrated, and just worn out by this. I mean, they've won games. They've won, they've beaten some teams in the Big Ten. They whooped Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. The game that matters, they got embarrassed the last 2 years. It wasn't even close. I mean, they're a good team. The team they lost to, that's a great team. And when they play that game, Ohio State, you are going to get their best shot because Ohio State cares about Michigan 24/7, 365. When Ohio State, and it hadn't really happened under Ryan Day, but last year we did some games. We did their Nebraska game. We did their Indiana game. You guys saw Purdue whipped Ohio State. You saw Iowa whipped Ohio State. That can't happen when they play Michigan because they're getting their A game. And until Michigan ups their recruiting to the level Ohio State is recruiting, get a better quarterback, get better players on defense, more difference makers. Their margin for error is too small for them to compete unless they play a perfect game.
I just want to add this, and LeVar, you can jump in. Everybody reduces it to recruiting. I say until they develop their players the way Ohio State develops theirs, that's the gap. Michigan's getting great recruits.
I can't go all the way down that road. I saw Ohio State play when they played against Penn State. Ohio State's players are better than everybody else's. Forget development on this one in particular. Ohio State, and people aren't talking about it very much, and they will, but the defensive front and the offensive front, especially in particular, that isn't being given probably the credit and due they're deserving of, is Ohio State's offensive front. I agree with you on the fan base, the school, the people that are associated with Michigan should not be happy with what they're getting out of Jim Harbaugh, especially for the amount of money that he's being paid to be the leader on that ship. That is, if not the number one rivalry in all of sports, it's number two. You have to be able to go back and forth in a rivalry. So the fact that they have not won since he's been there, not even Penn State has lucked out and got one against Ohio State. There is no rivalry if there are no back and forth struggles. That game on Saturday was a domination of supremacy within the Big Ten. And if in year 4, as Jim Harbaugh, the ability to be able to recruit, if you're not any closer than that,
man,
that's tough.
I get it. You
That's a tough
coach
one.
at a private school and y'all recruit and all that other stuff. I get it.
I don't know anything about what you just said.
No. What I'm telling you is, though, at this elite college level,
yes.
And I'm sorry, Alabama gets a lot of great recruits too.
Yes.
But they develop the hell out of them. There's a system in place by these great coaches, Dabo Swinney, Urban Meyer when he was there, Nick Saban. Jim Harbaugh has not shown he can do that kind of development. All these guys, I'm telling you, are getting great players. How you develop them does matter. That's where Michigan's been getting their brains beat in, from Brady Hoke to Rich Rodriguez to now Jim Harbaugh.
But the thing is perspective. I understand everything you guys are saying. 0-5 against Ohio State. But also, you lost 4 of the 5 times against Ohio State before Jim Harbaugh got there. So don't act like this is a Jim Harbaugh problem. This is greater than Jim Harbaugh. You had 1 10-win season in the 7 years before Jim Harbaugh. Now you have 3 10-win seasons, maybe a 4th with Jim Harbaugh. These are called baby steps. I understand. When you hear Michigan, you think Ohio State, they got to be on the same level playing field. No, they have not been for a while.
Here's the problem with baby steps. You don't put babies in $7.5 million shoes. Those are big boy shoes.
That's fair.
They're paying him to be right there with Saban and Dabo Swinney, and it's not happening.
Marcellus's point is like, well, because the milk is sour. This milk has only been sour for 3 weeks. It's not as bad as the one that was sour for 2 months. I mean, it's like, it's still
No,
not...
my point is, look, you played Michigan before Jim Harbaugh, Ohio State before Jim Harbaugh 14 times. You lost 12 times of those. My point is, you have to get a big figure in there to turn the tables of recruiting.
Here's the problem
and
with
that takes a while.
It's been a while. It's been 5 years. Here's the problem, though. I don't know who they could get where you'd say, okay, that guy's going to do. We feel confident that guy's going to do, but Urban Meyer's not going to. He can't even save it. He can't even put an M in his alphabet.
It would have to be coaches of that level, and that's what they thought they were getting. I'm
going to tell you that, again, they can't do it now, I don't think, but again, take the P.J. Fleck in Minnesota. He hasn't been getting the creme of recruits.
But they're
developing them. And development does matter. There are coaches that specialize at that. And there are coaches that can take your group of players and develop them better than you can.
Keep in mind, you're talking about development. Who was the star in the national title game last year? Were true freshmen. Justin Ross, Trevor Lawrence. I'm not saying that Clemson isn't developing those players, but there's a difference between you take what LeVar was in college and some other guy who was a 3-star. I mean, there are guys who are difference makers.
Michigan's not getting 3-star guys.
They're not getting that. They don't have Chase Young. They don't have that. They had Rashawn Gary was one of those guys. But show me the running back. Show me the running back that they've got. When was the last time Michigan had a wow running back?
Okay, and I'm sorry I'm gonna go back to the Brady Hoke era. They got the number 1 running back in the country who Urban Meyer wouldn't take, Derek Green. He was fat, he was slow, and he didn't like contact. Urban Meyer could see it and didn't take him. Brady Hoke took him as the jewel of his recruiting class, and the guy ended up transferring to some smaller school down in Texas because he didn't like contact. Again, Evaluation and development is what separates a lot of the best coaches from guys like Jim Harbaugh and others. There is something to it. It's not just, hey, I got LeVar Arrington and Jeff George and every other top recruit in the country, therefore I win. Joined by NFL veterans LeVar Arrington and Brady Papinga. Time now for the most fearless discussion of the day. All right, let's move to Pittsburgh, where the Steelers significantly improved their playoff chances and quite possibly put a dagger in the Browns' postseason aspirations. Pittsburgh beat Cleveland 20-13 on Sunday. The biggest talking point after the game was Cleveland coach Freddie Kitchens' choice of T-shirts on Friday. Kitchens was photographed at a movie theater wearing a Pittsburgh started T-shirt, which is a reference to the Myles Garrett, Mason Rudolph melee that marred the ending of the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game 2 weeks earlier. Steelers players ripped Kitchens after yesterday's game. Ramon Foster called it unprofessional and said it was something Steelers coach Mike Tomlin would never do. Fellow offensive lineman David DeCastro labeled the T-shirt stupid and bulletin board material. Is the T-shirt controversy much ado about nothing? I say no. The shirt is significant. It's an indication of mindset, an unhealthy one that has permeated the Cleveland locker room all season. The Browns are victims. That's been my narrative on them all season. Odell Beckham Jr. infected the Cleveland organization with a loser's victimhood mentality. The stench of OBJ's mindset stretches all the way to the owner's box. Last week, Browns owner Dee Haslam came to the game wearing a hat supporting Myles Garrett. There's no accountability in Cleveland. Pittsburgh started it tells you everything you need to know about the culture in Cleveland. It's a culture for losers, victims, the irresponsible, and people controlled by emotions. That's poisonous for a football team, a volleyball team, a golf team, or any team where responsible men and women work. There are no victims in sports. There are conquerors and those who have been conquered. OBJ wakes up every day looking to prove the NFL or society has treated him unfairly. Every weekend, he found an excuse to complain about this alleged persecution. The mentality has built him a great social media following, but he's not a winner. Mike Tomlin is a winner. Has Tomlin blinked once this season? He lost Big Ben, no problem. He lost James Conner, no problem. Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell jumped ship, no problem. Marquise Pouncey suspended, no problem. Remember when Jets coach Adam Gase announced that Sam Darnold would be out with mono? Gase looked like his dog and entire family had been lost in a plane crash. Victim, loser. Jets are 4-8, the Steelers are 7-5. You can't win in sports or in life with a loser's victim mentality. The entire mainstream sports media is obsessed with imposing the victimhood mentality on athletes. Colin Kaepernick is their god, and racial grievance is their religion. They love nothing more than to convert Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson. But this dude has a winner's mentality. Throughout the season, he has shown up to his post-game news conferences wearing a T-shirt that reads, "Nobody cares, work harder." Yesterday, after the Ravens beat the 49ers, Lamar said, if you want to be the best, you got to work hard at being the best. If they're doubting you, work harder. It don't matter. Mindset matters. The mind controls behavior and heavily influences outcomes. Freddie Kitchens and the Browns took the field with the wrong attitude, and Pittsburgh finished them. All right, guys, Marcellus, start us out. Is Freddie Kitchens' T-shirt a big deal?
Yes, it's a big deal. Now, there are two realities at play for me. One is the reality of the impact of this T-shirt on the football field. X's and O's has no impact. We know what that is. It's about what you're going to do in that moment of truth, how prepared you are, how urgent you are in those situations. But when you're talking about a head coach, in terms of representation, in terms of you being an authority figure, this is just plain immature. This is a guy who doesn't have his eyes directly focused on the prize. For whatever reason, outside chatter has motivated him to a place that he will represent himself, which is representing this ball club in this fashion. I'm about to steal a quote from my man Ben Horowitz, former Columbia alumni, great VC up in Silicon Valley, who says about the game of football, you have to find a way to sell trust through communication in a militaristic game. And he said that, and he wasn't talking about football necessarily, but he was talking about his world of business. And it's so true. Coaches have to give you the perception. They have to sell you these perceptions so that you can form the reality. And when you start putting this out there, Yeah, I understand that it's not going to make me score a touchdown, but it's also going to give me what Jason is alluding to, the reactions, and it's going to give me the opportunities to not necessarily go all in. And that's what he did, provided them a climate, a culture where they don't have to be all in.
I said they were not a franchise, they were a football team. And I think one Brady Papinga was on the show when I said
Way
that.
back.
Well,
You always like
to bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it, you got to live with it.
You did a good job guessing, I'll tell you that.
Freddie
Great
Kitchens,
job.
well, this is why it's not a big deal, because I wasn't guessing, right? I've known who they are. They're not what people have made them out to be with the additions that they have made. They are who they are. It's interesting. You didn't mention the benching of Mason Rudolph and your Whitlock as well. You mentioned losing Le'Veon Bell, the AB situation. Marquise gets suspended. You went to your third string quarterback and won that game with a young receiver and your defense. Right. When you're looking at the culture that has been built in Cleveland, and you showed the owner having the Myles Garrett support of the hat on, and you're talking to a spokesperson. They threw Kitchens' daughter under the bus.
Yeah.
Kitchens' daughters gave the shirt to Kitchens, and he wore the shirt to the movies. Not a big deal. I wore my jacket over the shirt. It's a very, very interesting and telling piece of information that says all that you need to know. You got the homie as the head coach. The homie is the head coach. You don't have a leadership, authoritative figure that can lead that group of men that they have in that locker. You have the homie. And that became very evident when he rocked that T-shirt to a public place. And to me, you get what you pay for, and they have what their results.
Yeah, and I agree with both you guys. The only thing that I would say is that this T-shirt is the expression of a culture, like Jason had talked about how they lack discipline, they lack accountability, which ultimately leads to on-the-field performance, because that's exactly how they've played this whole year. I mean, the Cleveland Browns, when you just look at raw physical talent, they are like the most talented team, or at least one of the most talented teams in the NFL. But why are they underwhelmed? Lack of accountability, lack of discipline. And, the Myles Garrett situation was like the tip of the spear, that just demonstrating that that's exactly what that culture was. And then all of a sudden, you got your head coach kind of making a joke about it. It shows he doesn't care about accountability and discipline, and that's why we see a very talented team in the Cleveland Browns is underperforming.
I don't want to leave ownership off the hook here.
Right.
Because ownership is responsible for everything. The reason why the homie's the head coach is because of ownership. The reason why is because ownership, and rather than having some true dynamic vision of how they want their organization to run, they felt, Baker Mayfield was hot last year and he likes Freddie Kitchens. Let's hire Freddie Kitchens. That's crazy. And then not having the confidence of like, hey, we're building a culture here. And yes, OBJ is really talented. But with our young quarterback and first-year head coach, do we really want to drop OBJ into the middle of our situation? OBJ is who he is, talented wide receiver. But his attitude can be overwhelming, and when you drop it on a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach, I think that's a bit much, particularly Jarvis Landry's out. They had their number one wide receiver. Jarvis Landry's playing well. They should have doubled down on what they had last year with Greg Williams as the interim coach. And then when I see ownership show up, when the league has come down on your player and he's clubbed somebody over the head, no matter how much sympathy you have for him, I wouldn't be wearing it on my sleeves. That's a private conversation between you and Myles. But when you show up with the number on your hat, we did nothing wrong. They started it. It all trickles down from the top, from ownership on down. And no wonder Freddie put on the T-shirt.
And that was the point I was getting at. I mean, I know I'm always being accused historically of pointing at ownership, but that's when I start my statement, it is you have a football team, not a franchise. That does start with the leadership and the ownership. And for me, when I look at you wearing that shirt, that says to me that ownership is okay with it. and saying that, you know what, there's always going to be an excuse or a reason as to why we come up short. And that's a culture that has to be changed if you're going to, I don't care how much talent you have, that's a culture that you need to change if you're going to win.
Well, of all of us, I believe you played it with the Redskins to where the owner was involved.
I probably played at the worst of all of us.
That's what I'm saying. I think you can speak to that the best, to where if the owner's dabbling in football operations, it just turns out to be a disaster because it undermines the head coach, undermines the general manager. In this case, I don't think it undermines the head coach. It kind of enables the head coach.
I'm probably going to make a dumb point here. This is a dumb point because I'll be contradicted by record. But I don't have a problem with ownership being involved. Because, again, I like the way Jerry Jones is involved, and that's the stupid part because they haven't won a Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah. But I like Jerry Jones has a clear vision of what he wants from the Dallas Cowboys. Robert Kraft, I think, has one for the New England Patriots. But ownership has to be involved in the right way and has to be sure of itself. And to me, I'm just telling you, I just feel like Freddie Kitchens is mimicking the culture and the mindset of ownership, and it's easy to beat up on Freddie, but maybe if he had better leadership coming from up top, maybe he'd be a better leader.
Yeah, to your point, it's easy for the viewing audience to understand that not all players want the same thing out of their career. Not all players are thinking about a Lombardi trophy. Let's just be real. I'll testify one. I never thought about a Lombardi trophy. I was trying to get them checks. Okay. Yep. And there are other guys who were like me. Point being, it's amazing we understand that all the players aren't equipped to be winners. And all the players don't have the full desire to just be winners. They want to win individually. Now, when we look at ownership, somehow, some way, we universally think that they all are equipped and they all have this full desire to want to win. But in reality, some of them are just checking the gate,
I just want that
TV
check.
ratings, concessions, licensing deals. This is an example of someone whose eyes are not necessarily on the same prize as we ultimately
The other point, a lot of people at that level of wealth buy football teams or sports teams
as
just
a
so
hobby.
people but just so people will know who they are.
Yeah, for the fame game.
You know, some people, there's a lot of people that's like, I just want the money, not the fame. There's a lot of people that's like, no, I want the money and the fame. And that's why you buy a sports team. Whitlock and Wiley, LeVar Arrington and Brady Papinga are back. Let's move to Monday Night Football, where Russell Wilson and the Seahawks host Kirk Cousins and the Vikings tonight. The game has major implications for the NFC playoff picture, but may also have some implications for the MVP race, with Russell Wilson looking to make up ground on Lamar Jackson. Both guys are having big years, with Wilson edging Lamar slightly in passing stats, while Lamar's rushing numbers and excitement factor have propelled him to the front-runner status. All right, the question here is, can Russell Wilson get back in the MVP race tonight?
Let me answer and say no, because he can't be the leader after tonight. He may close the margin, which I think is still so far away in terms of the impact of his numbers.
Back in it.
Look, okay, Dak is in it.
No, he's not.
Your face. I don't know who's in it, but I know who's going to win it. That's what I care most about. All these conversations. Drew Brees last year, respect to my former teammate. I knew he wasn't going to win it, but everybody wanted to hype it up. We want to do this for Russell Wilson so we can have some intrigue? Fine. He's not going to win it. Lamar can do less, and it just has more energy, more impact. That's the race that he's running. Russell won't win this race.
Lamar Jackson's fall-off would have to be the most epic fall-off in the history of a fall-offs from a National Football League player.
Milli Vanilli type fall.
It would have to be worse than Milli Vanilli for somebody to win with his body of work thus far and the teams that he's been able to do it against. That fall off would have to be epic. For
my Cowboys year. You talking about? No.
Well, on top of that, then Russell Wilson would have to be just like out of this world the next 4 weeks, throwing 4 touchdowns a game, taking over. Nobody's helping him out. The run game is non-existent, defense non-existent, and he just dominates. In addition to Lamar Jackson just completely disappearing. And I look at this like a mile race. I mean, basically, Lamar's got everybody lapped.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to catch him.
That's a good way of putting it.
Look, I'm going to tell y'all why y'all wrong. Look, it's Monday Night Football. They're playing the Vikings.
Okay.
They're in the best division, the conference in football, the NFC. If this man gets to 10-2 tonight against the Vikings, the Seahawks are the number 1 seed in the NFC in the best conference. Again, Lamar's got a huge lead. Lamar if I was a betting man, that's who I'm betting on is going to win it. Can Russell get back in the race? If they somehow go 13-3 or 14-2 this year, and he plays lights out tonight and in some other big games going down the stretch, he can get back in the race and get back in the conversation. I thought Lamar played very well this past week, but he cracked the door slightly with only 100 passing yards. If Wilson throws 4 TDs tonight and they beat the Vikings, yeah, I think people are gonna, be like, okay, it's the lead has closed, as you said, and that's getting back in the race.
Not for me. Let's say this. Russell Wilson, when he played against the 49ers, had a better game than we saw Lamar. But still, even in that win, when Russell walked off the field, thought he had lost the game in that interception in overtime, even the numbers were better, but we didn't feel the same impact. You felt like Lamar actually did better against the 49ers despite having lesser numbers. That's the race you're running. You're running 100 meters against a guy who's running 80. He has a head start. He's faster than you with a head start. I don't think you're going to catch him. But you know what? I'll be in the stands watching.
The question wasn't, can he catch you?
Can he get back?
Get back in the MVP race.
I still say no.
Somebody's got to be number 2.
Yeah.
And they're at number 2.
Well, he's in the race.
He's in the race.
Well, he's in the race
before tonight.
Your question is answered. Yes, Russell Wilson is in the race. He doesn't even have to get back into it. He's in the race. But Lamar Jackson is running backwards, looking at the rest of everybody trying to catch him, and he's going to finish with his back.
This tomorrow. If Russell plays well. If he doesn't, we won't talk about it. Like this didn't happen. But if he plays well, we're going to talk about it because we'll be y'all.
Can you half step backwards?
All right. Uncle Jimmy's here to help us talk about our approval rating for Tom Brady.
No.
Big dummy of the day.
Big dummy of the day go to the person that said, I ain't gonna lie, I'm a conspiracy theorist to sit up with my tin hat on and come up and say, I think that McDonald's got to make rib on a limited basis just to keep the black community in an uproar. That's a conspiracy for you.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I hope you did.
I didn't say that.
You thought
it. Let's talk some Tom Brady.
You're wrong.
Who was frustrated throughout last night's loss to the Texans with the offense struggling to do much of anything for most of the game. All right, Marcellus.
Yes.
Do you think Brady is finally starting to show his age? Do you think he'll ever play at an elite level again?
No. I defended him earlier as a team success, but 7 straight games without a 100 quarterback rating. Never happened in his career. It's happening right now at the age of 42. When that was his average, 100 quarterback rating in 2017. That level, I think, is behind us.
Nope. What do you say to the people that say it's not Brady, it's the supporting cast? His supporting cast doesn't allow him to play at an elite level.
The same people who were saying that before they got a Randy Moss and after they got a Randy Moss and Tom Brady was still elite. Tom Brady used to find ways. Now he's not finding those same ways because he's lost a little off his fastball.
I agree with you. I hate to say it,
Me
but
too.
I agree. I don't think he'll be elite anymore. All right, Uncle Jimmy.
No.
Do you have a take on Tom Brady?
Look at, man, my grandmother told me coming up, she said, laughing's catchy. So I ain't gonna laugh at Tom Brady. I feel sorry for the dude.
Oh.
Look, man, Tom's getting ready to go down that long road that all men must travel eventually one day. Meaning he gonna have to come off this job and gonna have to deal with Gazelle and them badass kids on a full-time basis.
Life.
See,
Gazelle.
this is the reason why men work as long as they do. You know? This is why we do it. Why you think men die so early? Because that's the last time we got to say so on what we gonna do in the relationship. Look, man, Tom Brady, if he had a choice, would play football for the Bengals until he was 90, if it meant that would keep his ass out the house. So now, instead of him sitting up at 2 a.m. watching tape of the upcoming defense, now he's gonna be sitting up at 2 a.m. He gotta watch tape of his kid's dance recital. Oh, hell no, who needs that?
Some people say that's living.
Look, man, this is the reason I'm on my 6th wife and my 3rd retirement. See, Tom, this is what it's coming to, buddy.
Oh, man.
See, you used to dealing with defensive backs hitting you from your blind side, right? See, now get ready for your wife to blindside you. Asking you dumbass questions like, Tom, do you like the way this fabric softens and smells? Tom, tell me, do these jeans make my ass look flat? tell me, Tom, I have an idea. How about you come up with the TB12 prostate exam? Hell no. Look, man, Tom think that playing for Bill Belichick was bad. You ain't never had to deal with a real honey-do list.
Real.
Look, Tom has no idea what it's like to have to sit up and watch an episode of The Bachelor and really act like you care who he get the last rose to. Look, man, Tom Brady, if given a choice, would rather get hit in the knees by Bernie Pollard again than look at one more color swatch for the powder room. Look, man, Tom Brady would rather get cracked in the nuts by Vontae Burfict than go watch one more rendition of the Nutcracker with his family. Look here, y'all laughing. Tom Brady would rather go visit the gravesite of Aaron Hernandez with O.J. Simpson rather than carpool with them badass kids one more day. Look here, Tom, I'm gonna tell you something. Marriage got 4 rings to it. The engagement ring, the wedding ring, the Super Bowl ring, and now you got to deal with the suffering. And that's it. Bottom line, case closed.
Suffering. Wow, that's pretty good. All right, listen, Tom Brady stays at GOAT status for me, despite dropping 3 points in job performance. I get dropping 1 point in character. He's begging for AB to come back. So 80, GOAT status.
Man, I just saw Frozen 2. Anybody need a pass rusher?
Did you want to go?
No.
Did you want to go?
No.
All right, then.
Like, what the hell? Oh, man, that hit home right there. I got him at 82 GOAT status right there.
All right, the internet.
Make the big bucks, baby.
The internet agrees, 55.8% GOAT status.